The man at the end of the phone, standing patiently by, is my favourite TV talk show presenter in American television history, bar none. In fact, as a young student of the business, I sat as a punter in the audience and watched him in full flight. He's also hosting the funniest podcast in town, my favourite go-to comedy podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. He's a raconteur, he's a wit, he's a sociopath. Conan, good morning.
Thank you. You really nailed it with sociopath. You called it what it was, and I appreciate that.
I just wanted to be honest with the listeners, Conan, and we appreciate you coming on the show today. You described in a previous podcast John F. Kennedy as Boston's second most famous son after yourself. Thanks for being with us today. How are you?
Yes. I'm doing well. I am stopping over in Dublin at the moment, and I love it here. I've been wandering around because I live in Southern California, and it's so nice to walk around and feel finally like I have the correct amount of color in my skin. It's just like I'm so pale. I'm so very pale in Los Angeles, and here I walk around and I look downright Cuban. You know, it's amazing.
You've described yourself as well as having, I think you regularly describe yourself as being, in appearance, as looking like a translucent, tall woman. I mean, you're cruel to yourself.
Yes.
So
well, cruel, but also accurate. It's funny because I thought it was just me that made those jokes, but my son is a big comedy fan. And we've been watching 30 old episodes of 30 Rock recently. Yeah. And there's an episode where someone says, I think it was the great comedian Tim Conway is a guest star on the show. And he says, I just ran into Conan O'Brien. And he said, who is she and why is she so sad? And I thought, okay, so it's not just me.
Somebody got in there ahead of you. Well, I was really gratified to hear from you last night.
Yeah, Tina Fey was... I thought I only made these jokes about myself,
yeah.
And then Tina Fey did it as well, and I thought, okay, that hurts. Yeah, it hurts when someone else does it.
Self-mockery, good. Other people's mockery, hurtful.
Yes, exactly. That's how it works.
I was very happy to hear from you last night to say that you were in Dublin, and because we've spoken a few times. Weirdly, we haven't met in real life, which is completely bonkers. Because the one time you go there, I'm here and you're there. What are you doing there, and for how long?
Well, I'm working on this show. I've been working on it for a little while for HBO Max. It's a travel show. And it will probably be out in the spring. It's called Conan O'Brien Must Go. And we're going to drop 4 episodes in different countries. We were supposed to be on a while ago, but there was a big writer's strike in the United States that just ground everything to a halt. So I was supposed to be come to Dublin a while ago, but we couldn't because of the writer's strike. But now we're back. And so we're here. I'll be here about 9 days. We'll shoot. I'll make a fool of myself back in my country of origin, and then we'll go back to Los Angeles and edit it together, and then we'll have all 4 episodes, I think, sometime this spring.
The danger for you, I feel, is that you mightn't want to leave because, as you said, you found your meteorological homeland, but also your genetic homeland. Because you talk about this a lot. You are, from your gene pool, close to, 99% or 100% Irish?
It is. I went to I was at a doctor a few years ago, and he said, he was doing a blood draw, and he said, as a side project, I do genealogy. If you want, I could do basically what they do on 23andMe. So I said, yeah, why not? And he came back and he said, this is quite unusual. You are 100% Irish. Wow. And I thought that was a compliment, like you scored high on a test. So I said, thank you very much. This must be a great, what happens? Do I get a prize? Is this a good thing? And he said, you idiot, it means you're inbred. And it just means that more or less my people left Ireland. We moved to Massachusetts. We moved to one town in central Massachusetts and then married each other for about 150 years. I am the product
It says, it explains everything. But without that inbreeding, you wouldn't be the man you are. You would, or the woman you are today. I mean, it is extraordinary.
I know. It's listen. I wouldn't change anything. I'd love to have some athletic ability, but I'd like it if you couldn't see my veins when I'm just standing there talking to you. Yes. But other than that, I wouldn't change a thing. We are who we are. We must accept it. But it really does. Yes, you're right. It does answer a lot of questions as to why I chose this profession, or why this profession chose me, because there are crossed wires left and right.
For sure.
And I'm glad that comedy exists.
Exactly. But there's so much comedy in every Irish household. You talk about your mother and father who are still with us, and you, by that I mean still alive, as opposed to in the room. And they are there. And you refer back to your childhood, and you talk about your brother Neil in particular, and how it is essentially like the Hunger Games with crucifixes.
I've never just heard it described that way, but that's exactly it. It is. It's funny, and it still goes on today. I just went home to Boston for Christmas and visited my family, and I'm sitting there at the kitchen table with my brother Neil, who's a few years older than I am, and we start going at it the way we did in 1970. Nothing's changed, and he doesn't care about anything. I mean, it's all as it should be. He doesn't care about anything I've achieved. It all means nothing to him. It's 1970, and he's going to get me worked up. And then you hear the result in the podcast. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes of yours once, because we text a lot, is you said, you heard me the way I talk to my co-presenters on the program, my assistant Sona. Yeah. And I said, yes, I suppose I'm kind of passive aggressive. And you wrote back, I'm hearing the aggressive, not so much the passive. And I thought that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, back to the gene pool. Having watched you present TV all down through the years, and being, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a huge fan of, an admirer of yours. And then I got stuck into the podcast, which has been my go-to place to make me happy. And what I find about listening to you as a broadcaster is that you seem to be unshackled by radio, unshackled by podcast. That you were, 7 minutes with Liam Neeson on the TV show suddenly feels superficial. You've got this lovely hour now where you and Liam Neeson, or you and Harrison Ford, whoever it might be, you can have fun together. It breathes. You seem more relaxed. You seem, dare I say it, happier.
Yeah, I would say that's a very good observation. I really enjoyed the late night show, but I would say the trick is, as you have to do tight turns, and you know this yourself from doing television. There's someone off camera who's signaling you that you need to get to the Snickers commercial, and you can be talking to, you can be talking to Anthony Hopkins, yes, and someone's in your peripheral vision waving at you to wrap it up, get out on a laugh. And so after years and years and years, almost 30 years of doing that, to get to be on a show that it really is this fantastic format. The podcast is, I came to it fairly late, but it's such an amazing format because you can just go and you can go down these rabbit holes. Yes. With people, and it's, we just, and what's nice is that I talked to a lot of comedians, but just a few weeks ago, I went to the White House and spoke with President Biden about being Irish, and we had a really lovely chat, and then he showed me the Oval Office, and that wouldn't have been possible on a late night show. We couldn't have had that kind of conversation. It really is a different, you're right, it's very freeing, and I think at this stage of my life, it's the right thing for me to be doing.
You went to a gig with your daughter recently to see. I was asking you last night when we had a quick chat about, have you been to the Sphere to see the U2 show? And you said no, actually, that you had gone to see Bono's son's band, Inhaler. Is that right? You hung out backstage at that. And,
yes, yeah. I went to Outside Lands, which is my daughter is 20 and she's a big music fan. And for about 2 or 3 years now, she's been asking me to take her to these festivals. And so I've been doing it. And then the nice thing is I get exposed to this music.
Yes.
Someone of my vintage, I turned 60 this year. I wouldn't normally be going to Coachella or any of these things on my own because that would look just downright creepy. But I love it. It's If people get suspicious when there's a lone 60-year-old man wandering around trying to chat up the youngsters. But she took me to, and I saw all these amazing, she introduced me to a lot of terrific music. And then we went to Outside Lands and I saw this band I really liked. They were fantastic, called Inhaler. And then the music's over and someone explained to me that, that guy singing who's so fantastic is in fronting the band is Bono's son.
Yes.
And I had no idea. And so I ended up bumping into them, chatting with them. We said we'd get a Guinness some point. And then flash forward to me heading into the airport and seeing them in the distance a few days later. And I screamed at them, "You owe me an effing Guinness." So one day I'll get that from Inhaler owes me a Guinness.
You better
That's
get.
all I'm saying.
You better.
They're fantastic.
Good. Yeah, they've been on the Late Late Show with us down through the years, and they're a terrific band with a huge future, as you know. And we might try and get to the Sphere at some time. So if I'm in the neighbourhood, either come along for the ride, or we'll meet up and I'll buy you Guinness if no one else does. Don't worry about that, Conan.
Here's my question: What U2 has famously done the Sphere, and it's a massive success. How many bands are there in the world that can play the Sphere? Do you know what I mean? I don't think what I do, if I did the podcast in the Sphere, I think it would be a fantastic waste of the Sphere. Who's next? Who's going to do it next?
I think the Sphere, when I heard about you two doing that, I thought, and I think that this is Elvis material, and this is the stuff of legend, and there's only once in a lifetime or generation comes a U2 or an Elvis or a Sinatra that could hold a Sphere like that. So I don't know who's there. I mean, you'd have to, as I would, ask our daughters and say, like, who's running the show here musically that would be able to do that. But they are just so big. But the Sphere can take them. That's the thing. They're ginormous. They're define a generation.
Yeah, I think U2 is going to make it. I think they're going to make it. I think they're going to be okay.
Someday.
I don't worry about them anymore. I love to say keep at it. I was at years and years ago, I had a Christmas party at my house, and this was at the height of Jim Carrey mania. Yeah. He was coming off of his 4th massive hit film, and it was like the Beatles. Everywhere Jim Carrey went, there was a riot. And he stopped off. This was about 5 or 6 years into me hosting the late night show. He stopped off at my Christmas party, and my mother was at the Christmas party visiting me in New York. And at one point, out of the corner of my eye, I see my mother having a long chat with Jim Carrey. And I got nervous. And when the party was over, I said, "Mom, what were you talking to that man about, Jim?" And she said, "Oh, I was telling him, he told me he's interested, that he's a comedian." And I told him, "Well, my son's had his difficulties, but he just keeps at it. And eventually he made it. And if you just keep at it, Jim, you're going to make it too." And I said to her, "Mom, I want you to go home to Boston and tell everyone you told Jim Carrey to keep at it." And so she was much laughed at for quite a while.
That's the Irish mother right there, described beautifully. Well done, Conan O'Brien. Conan,
yes.
You've got to join us in real life somewhere. I mean, we'll be back. We'll be doing the show possibly from Dublin in Patrick's Day. I don't know if you have any plans. Maybe 9 days in a go is enough for you at this stage. But someday we'll meet in real life. That's for sure.
No. I'll make it. I'll make it back here, or I'll make it to. I'll either get to Dublin or I'll get to London soon, and we'll be in person, and we will cause trouble. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, sounds good. The last thing I need you to do is to say the following line or something like it, if you could, live on air, which is, "This is Conan O'Brien in conversation with Ryan Tubridy."
This is Conan O'Brien in conversation with Ryan Tubridy.
Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. We'll take it. Thanks for joining us today from Dublin. Good luck with the recording. Pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I take care, Ryan. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.
Yes,
Bye.
you're so good. Thanks a lot. What a nice surprise that was for Conan O'Brien to get in touch with us today and to be on the show with us. Very funny. Listen to his podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. You will not be disappointed.